How did you become Shani Darden's personal assistant?
Actually don't like being a social media manager.
Is it true that the Shani Darden line launched in Sephora in March 2020?
I knew the products better than anybody.
Have you run into anyone that you knew from high school yet?
Actually, funny enough,
From small town roots to LA brand insider, Emily carved her path by working her way up from personal assistant to brand marketing manager at one of the biggest names in skincare. After years in the beauty world, she's now back in Indiana, bringing that big city vision to a slower pace of life and showing us that big careers don't always happen on the coasts. Hello, Emily. Welcome to Friends from the Feed. I'm so excited to have you as my first guest.
thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
First friend, I literally never thought this day would come, and here we are. I thought about this idea about 5 years ago, and I'm like, how do I get all of my friends to answer all of my questions I've always wanted to ask them?
Yes, yes, yes. No, I love
Okay,
it.
so we started following each other on Instagram, or I should say messaging each other on Instagram
Mhm.
a year ago, which is wild to
Yeah,
think about.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have zero recollection of how we started following each other or why.
I think it was at some point, like I realized that you were in Phoenix too, and I feel like I had like seen you before because of your modeling, and I was like, oh, she's a Phoenix girly, and I just thought that was like really exciting, and you seemed so like cool, and
Oh
it's like
my god!
I want to be her friend.
I wanted to be your friend. I was like, she's the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen, and
Oh my God.
all right.
No.
Well, neither of us fully really remember, but I think I was in Indiana going to the lake, and you were in your
Yes.
originally,
Oh
and
my
then that's
God,
when
yeah.
we started chatting.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. That was it.
Well, I'm just getting to the crux of why we are here today, which is to talk about you and specifically your career in your life, which seems daunting saying that out loud. But the main thing is you work for Shani Darden,
I
and I
do.
have to ask, how, before we get into the present day, we have to go back in time. How did you become Shani Darden's personal assistant?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. I was originally doing interior design. That's what I went to school for. I was kind of thinking about like leaving that and like finding something else. And a friend had told me about like a job board that had a lot of postings for personal and executive assistants. And so I was like casually looking on there because I was living in LA at the time and I was like, oh, I could try the personal assistant game. And I saw that one with Shawnee. It was for an executive assistant to a facialist of the stars. And I was like,
What a
oh, that's intriguing. And so I ended up getting the job and joining as like the first employee and yeah being able to like I was her executive assistant and helping to like run her spa at the time and doing all of the things and like just crash course and like marketing of a skincare business from the very beginning.
That's insane that you were her first. I mean, I knew you were
Yeah,
her first employee, but like actually hearing it again
yeah.
about how you were her first employee is wild. Have you always been a skincare girl? Was getting this personal assistant job like did it make the most sense for you?
My gosh, yeah. I've been obsessed with skincare like as long as I can remember. And the first job that I ever really considered when I was like in high school, I actually wanted to become an esthetician. The other thing too was like somebody came into high school. I was just telling the story the other day. Somebody came into my school and they were like a cosmetic chemist.
Yeah.
And I was like, that has got to be like the coolest job in the world. And so I've just always been really like, it's always kind of been in the back of my mind, but I just chose a different path. And so when that job presented itself, I was just like, man, I mean, it really seemed like a dream job, and I wanted to, try something new and it just kind of ended up being the right thing. And now, 7.5 years later, I'm really glad I did it.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question because from that first initial job posting, getting the job of personal assistant to now as brand marketing manager, correct?
Hmm.
What do you do inside the business over the last 7.5 years to take you from one position to the next? Because I know so many people watching are probably like, how do I move up in my job? How do I move up in my business?
Yeah. I mean, I think I was really fortunate because it was such a small company that I was able to like make an impact in a lot of different areas. And I came with kind of a project management background, like being in interior design. And then I also had that creative background too. And I mean, how it ultimately started, like the transition from an executive assistant to other things was I very early on, like because I knew skincare so well, like because I had been so passionate about it, I understood a lot of about ingredients and otherwise. And so I became like the primary copywriter from the beginning. And I think, so I was like shaping a lot of like the brand messaging like pretty early on. And I knew the products better than anybody. So I just became like a really integral part of everything. It was like I was kind of the person in the company that like everybody would come to, like even the higher ups, and they're like, do you know this ultra specific thing about this other ultra specific thing? Because I was also helping with PR since I was doing the copywriting. It just kind of naturally like went that way, but it was a lot of like trial by fire too. I mean, there are still things today that I'm like learning and have to figure out on the fly. So
You really became the go-to girl.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious, was there maybe a position or title when over the last 7.5 years that you tried to slot yourself in within the company that you were like, this is not for me?
Yeah, for a little while I was the studio director, like managing the spa, and I found that to be it was fine. I loved her spa like and everything. I found that to be like a little bit more challenging and like not as suited to my skill set. And I really wanted to be like more involved in the skincare side of things. So there was that. And but otherwise, I mean, I was the social media manager for a while, and I've found that I really actually don't like being a social media manager. I like overseeing it, but I don't like doing the actual execution.
That's so fair, honestly. I don't think we've ever talked about this. Is it true that the Shani Darden line launched in Sephora in March 2020?
Yes, March 17th, 2020.
How do you handle that?
We really had to like pivot and like change the whole strategy. Like we had a big launch event that we had to cancel. I mean, the good thing was that we got so much press during that time. We were getting like, I mean, 10 to 15 interviews a week during COVID, which was like, and I was writing all of those. And so we were like just so busy. And I think that it opened up like a lot of other opportunities for us in education, that because that's what like really became like important, was like social media was more important than ever, and like education. And so I think like when we had all of these like different events, like store events and influencer and editor events planned, like we had to pivot and change all of that stuff. And yeah, it was interesting, but it all went well overall.
That's crazy though, because if I were in your position, I would feel not defeated necessarily because we didn't
Mhm.
all 100% know what was going to happen at
Right.
the time, but you're like, oh my gosh, we had this like, huge announcement and huge,
Yeah.
brand moment that's just kind of been squashed, but
Yeah.
it was completely fine. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, not as dramatic as I thought.
Yeah, yeah, I think we were really fortunate in the fact that, I mean, what a horrible, awful time, but, being able to like, for so many of us to be home more, I think a lot of people really got into skincare then because they were home and they actually had the time to focus on it. And so I think it was like, again, horrible, awful time for so many reasons, but I think a great opportunity for people to, learn more about skincare and become curious and interested in it.
I totally agree. And our third friend that's going to join us on the podcast, she launched skincare kits at the beginning of
Mm,
that time because it
yeah.
was so, like,
Yes.
doing your skincare at home was
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, that was actually exactly how Shawnee's triple acid peel came to be, was because her clients were like, "Oh, I need some, like, what do I do? Like, I'm at home, like, I can't get a facial." And so we ended up like, we were packaging up kits and taking those to her clients and stuff. And
So
yeah,
smart. So
yeah,
smart.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. Well, from being with the company for almost a decade, which is crazy to say out loud,
yeah.
what has changed for you in terms of your thought process of how you handle branding and marketing? Because over the course of the last 7.5 years, marketing, in my mind, has changed a lot,
Yeah.
as well as branding. Well, both marketing and branding has changed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's constantly changing, and I try to stay really aware of like what other brands are doing. And I think that skincare has become like such a huge thing, and it's like beauty in general. And there's like a million different trends to chase. And I think for me, like what I always really come back to is just like authenticity. And like I think that there are like some fun trends. I mean, I guess I'm referring more so to social
Yeah.
specifically. It's like there's some fun trends to follow, but it's like I really think that like trying to weed through that and only select like the stuff that's really authentic to your brand and like what makes sense is like a really important part of it. And I mean, that goes for marketing overall. But I think that it's really important to just make sure that like everything is cohesive across channels and, just have to like really focus on like what makes the most sense for the brand ultimately and how can you like cut through that noise.
Yeah, you've kind of answered my next question, which is how do you keep your own creativity at such a large company, but in terms of organizing and deciding which route you're going to go down for branding and marketing. But I think at the end of the day, you have to choose what's best for the brand and their guidelines and what they're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I really was speaking about like Shani's brand specifically. It's like I feel like I've been really fortunate that I landed with a brand that, the aesthetic was one that I felt like very personally connected to and like something that I felt like aligned with my own personal tastes. And so I think that that's like helped a lot in that. And we have a really amazing creative director named Jessie. Who, I think she has like such a great vision too. And so I feel like that's a big part of it, is just like being in alignment of the brand that you're helping to market.
Yeah, that's fair. Going back to what we originally talked about, for someone who's listening that's like, I don't know how to take that next step at my company and I'd love to move up, what would your advice to them be?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on like how big your company is because I think ultimately like if you're at a really big corporate company, it can be really hard to do that because there's so many different hoops to jump through and people to get access to. But I think when you're at a smaller company, it can be a lot easier because you are able to just go directly to the leaders of the different departments and try to make yourself available and take things on that are outside of your job description and just like be focused on like learning as much as possible. I think one of the things that's been really beneficial for me is like because I've worked cross functionally for so long and I've had my hands on pretty much like every facet of the business. It's like I understand things from a pretty holistic level. And I think that it can really be to your benefit to try to just learn as much as you possibly can about how each individual department works or something specific that, to what you want to do so that you can start to pitch in and help more with those things. And I think once they see what your skill set includes beyond your job description, that's where it helps.
You have such good answers, Emily. I'm like, wow.
Oh,
Okay, I'm curious though, because as two women who have recently moved back to their
mhm.
quote unquote hometowns within the last couple of years, you recently made the move back to Indiana. And I'm curious what I think within the last 2 months, right? Which is wild to think about. But what has your day to day life and creativity looks like in comparison to when you lived in Phoenix?
I would say that like my creativity has pretty much been kind of non-existent since I moved. I'm still in the process of like just figuring things out and getting my apartment set up. I just got my coffee table yesterday, which was kind of one of the last like missing pieces that I needed. But I'm hoping now that like things are a little bit more settled and I'm like actually I'm getting a solid routine down that I'll be able to like have a little bit more brain space for creativity. And in general, like setting up my apartment has kind of been like the focus of my creativity. So it's like to say it's non-existent isn't fair either, but
I still think you're creative, and I think it's hard because I think obviously we were in two different spaces of life when we moved back to our hometowns, but I was in a transitional period for
yeah,
probably 2 years
yeah,
because it was a very abrupt move, so I
yeah,
actually hadn't really
right,
grasped how my life was going to change moving
right.
back. Do you feel like you're in the same boat in that sense?
A little bit, yeah. I've been kind of splitting my time between Phoenix and Indiana. So when I did like officially make the move back, I was already kind of like half living here anyway. So I think that some of that transition has already taken place. So it's like I think that I'm going to be able to like settle in a little bit sooner than I normally would. But I would say like generally for me, there is a very long transition period. So
I believe in you. I'm like,
yeah,
it's gonna happen.
yeah,
It took me
yeah.
a while to feel like I was like finally at home, if you will.
Yes, yes. Well, think this is like where my heart truly wanted to be. And so like it's been a really beautiful, inspiring transition and I'm really happy to be there.
Have you run into anyone that you knew from high school yet?
Actually, funny enough, just today I went to get coffee and one of my old high school friends was working there and
Stop.
I haven't seen her in 2 decades.
Was it weird or was it cool? Because I got
Oh,
like
it's super cool. Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. It was really cool to see her.
that's so crazy. It just happened this morning. I was thinking
Yeah.
about that yesterday. I was like, I wonder if she's had some of those same encounters I have because it's such a like a.
Mhm.
We're gonna go into my favorite part of Friends from the Feed, which is the group chat questions.
Yeah.
What? This is kind of a big one to start off with. What's one connection you made online that has become something bigger IRL?
Actually, I mean, like, it's kind of a funny question because the girl who she's actually, I refer to her as my sister. I actually met her on AOL back in like 1998, and her
That
family literally adopted me. So,
that's insane.
yeah, so probably her.
Definitely, 100% it's
Yeah.
that's cool. Okay, that's a different story time.
Yeah, maybe for the next chapter.
Okay, part two. We're coming back to that one. That's insane. Okay, wow, what a great way to kick this off. What's something you've posted that you were scared to share but are so glad that you did?
Oh my gosh. I mean, every single day. I second guess every single thing that I post.
Do you actually though? Like
Yeah.
things a little bit hesitant to
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing I was probably the most hesitant to post was um the first modeling job I ever had, which was for a bikini brand and just
obviously a little scary at any time.
yeah, yeah, super scary. But I was really proud of that, and I'm so glad that I did it and shared it with everybody.
I am too, because it's one of the first posts I saw of you, and I was like, look at
Yeah,
her go. Okay,
yeah.
Emily. What is one Shani Darden product, obviously, that you would take to Desert Island with you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, probably the triple acid peel.
I love that one.
It's my ride or die for sure. Her retinol reform is incredible too, but the triple acid peel like really has made such an insanely big difference in my skin and I cannot live without it.
This is kind of a twofold question. Do you get imposter syndrome at your job and or in your daily life?
Every day. Yeah, for sure. I think imposter syndrome is like such a tricky thing. I still struggle with it, but I've ultimately kind of realized that like everybody has imposter syndrome on some level.
100%.
And I think like as I've been working more, it's like I realize even people who are in positions higher than me, there's still stuff they're trying to figure out and that they don't know about. And, so it's like I think that kind of helped me a little bit like break through some of it. Is just like understanding like we all just have different skill sets and it's like it doesn't make, anybody better than the other person. And it's like ultimately I don't know, it's something to like drive you to learn more, and to cut through those insecurities, like focus on the things that you feel the most insecure about and like what can you do to, learn more about that subject and, become an expert in it.
What is one thing that you haven't posted for your online friends to see that you would like them to?
Probably my music. I mean, I've posted about it in the past, but I haven't posted about it for a really long time. And I've pretty much like archived any videos that I did have.
I truly did not know that you did music like for real, for real. Are you singing? Like,
Yeah, I
it's
sing and
insane
play
that you're not
guitar.
sharing this.
There's my guitars. Yeah. So probably that. I mean that's something that I'm really looking forward to getting back into. Like now that I have my space set up too. So I want to get back into songwriting and posting more and yeah.
You're literally so cool. I'm like, okay, all right, Emily,
Oh, you're so cool.
this is why I wanted to talk with you. I had no idea that you were playing guitar out here
Yeah.
and singing
Yeah.
just so casually. Okay, well, I selfishly want to see you post more and I want to see
Okay.
you more on my Instagram feed.
Okay. 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 Yes, I will. I will. I'm gonna be there.
All right, well, that wraps up for today. If you want to say goodbye to the friends with me, let's do it together.
Okay, let's do it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, friends. All right, Emily, you did such a great job. Thank
Okay,
you so
good.
much.
Thank you for having me do this. This was really fun.